Hi, my name is Flores. This is my presentation on why you should explore music from the 60s and 70s. So, right off the bat, I know I always try to find new music personally, but I'm pretty out of touch with modern music. So, looking at anything past the 90s, it's pretty rare for me to find some music I enjoy. On the other hand, music from the 60s and 70s, I've been listening to it my whole life. I got hours and hours of songs to select from, and as old as it is, it just never gets old. So I hope to inspire some of you to go back and check out some older music from the 60s and 70s and see what it has to offer. Starting off though, you're probably wondering why the 60s and 70s. What's so important about the 60s and 70s? What makes that special? And what is there to offer in going back and looking at older music? So what I have to say to that is, as time goes on, culture highlights certain genres. Like for now, rap is being highlighted, and in the early 2000s, it was pop. And on the other hand of that, there's certain genres that completely get overlooked. For example, jazz is nowhere near as big now as it used to be in like the 30s and 40s. With the whole jazz big bands coming out, and there's a lot of great jazz artists coming out at the time. Whereas now, it's since jazz has nowhere near as much attention, it might be harder to find quality jazz artists or music you like from that genre. What else do I have to say about this? As far as the 60s and 70s, it was incredibly diverse as far from artist to artist. Like the top artists didn't necessarily sound the same. Whereas now you kind of have those similarities between what's popular from artist to artist. And to quote Rachel James here from Atwood Magazine, the top tunes from the 70s feel incredibly diverse, both in sound and content. Some factors to consider here are the test of time. If it's still popular now, if a song's been played for over 40 years, the same song over and over on the radio, and people are still listening to it, it's probably for a good reason. It's probably a quality song. That's not always the case. I know there's some bad songs that make it through the test of time, and they're just very annoying to listen to when you hear them on the radio. But on average, for the most part, if you hear a song that's been played for the last like 40 years, and it's probably lasted that long for a good reason. Same thing on that note, natural selection. To quote Ronald Riggio from Psychology Today, newer music doesn't have the benefit of this filtering, and its newness means it's less memorable, and the duds are still played right along with the songs destined to be classic. So what that's really saying is, now that these songs have been played for over 50 years, the music from the 60s and 70s that isn't all that great, and people don't want to hear it over and over again, kind of gets swept under the rug and lost in decades. So some of the work's done for you. It should be, in theory, it should be easier for you to find more quality music from the 60s and 70s because of that. Alright, so much like how I don't know where to start looking at new music, you're probably wondering, where should I start looking into music in the 60s and 70s? Well, luckily for you, I've gone ahead and narrowed it down to a couple genres and artists that I think you might be interested in. First genre we got up here, well, by the way, genres were selected from peoplehistory.com, Pearson 2007, and artists were selected from retrowaste.com, 2020. First genre up is rock and rock subgenres. I don't really have time to cover all the genres or subgenres of rock because there are a lot of them, but I got some essential ones for the 60s and 70s here. So classic rock, we got Janis Joplin. Another classic rock is Rolling Stones, and finally for classic rock, the Beatles. The two I have up for psychedelic / classic rock are Led Zeppelin and Jimi Hendrix. For blues rock, we got B.B. King and Eric Clapton. And for folk rock, we got Bob Dylan. What I have to say about these artists, I can't really get into details about every single song, don't really have time, but Janis Joplin and these three songs I've selected, along with most of the songs I've selected, are to show how the artist has like diversity over time, so you can't just pick one one artist or one song, listen to it, and be like, all right, that's Janis Joplin, because every artist has a lot of unique sound to offer within their discography. And the standout of these three would be Bobby McGee, which is, I'm not saying it's the best one, but it's definitely very different in sound from the other two. Painted Black would be the standout for the Rolling Stones. The Beatles would be, all three of those are very different songs, as a matter of fact, for the Beatles. The Beatles have a lot of diversity within their music throughout time. Led Zeppelin, Going to California is like a good example of how they have like an entirely different sound, which is like an acoustic sound, whereas Since I've Been Loving You is more on that like blues, psychedelic rock, and then What Is and What Should Never Be is more just like straightforward, that's like classic rock. Jimi Hendrix, Legend on the Guitar. Little Wings, more of like, it's like Walking in the Clouds kind of vibe. It's hard to describe that song, but it's amazing. Voodoo Child and Purple Haze are more like heavy rock anthems, but don't let the word heavy rock really turn you off of Jimi Hendrix, because he does it his own way, and it's incredible. B.B. King, what I gotta say about B.B. King is he definitely focuses on guitar as the center of his music, so the vocals, although quality singing, it's not always going to be the center of attention of the song. So if you're into like guitar and instrumentals more than vocals, I would definitely check out B.B. King for that. Eric Clapton, none of those three songs are really blues, but Eric Clapton is considered a blues classic rock artist, and Sunshine of Your Love technically was recorded when he was in the band Cream, so it's not like his own song, but he contributed a fair amount to it, and I think it's just a good example of the time, like a song from the time period. Folk rock, Bob Dylan. I know a lot of people would never even consider listening to folk rock just because it's folk rock. It doesn't sound all that entertaining or all that interesting, but Bob Dylan is really good at telling a story, and he's a great songwriter. Hurricane is a good example of an entire story from beginning to end, whereas Don't Think Twice, It's Alright, and Times They're Changing, more like your classic, like your typical kind of song structures, but Hurricane really is a story from the whole way through. He does a great job telling that story throughout the song. So the next genre we got up, R&B and soul. We got Bill Withers, Ed James, and Otis Redding. So I don't have a whole lot to say about these artists. Etta James, what I will say about her is all the music quality consistently through, but she has like that one style of sound that she sticks to and does really well. So it's not necessarily the most diverse artist throughout the discography. Same thing with Otis Redding. But on the other end, Bill Withers is kind of one of those artists that has like 2 or 3 kind of go-to sounds. Ain't No Sunshine's more of like a little more bluesy, I guess, a little slower. Whereas Use Me is like funkier, groovier. Same thing with Lean on Me. And then last but not least, James Brown, the father of funk. You know, revolutionary for the time period. 3 songs up there: I Got You, It's a Man's World, and Payback. What I will say about James Brown and his songs is he definitely makes dance music, so song structure isn't really what you may be used to. So like Payback, for example, you might think it's way longer than it needs to be. It's a 7-minute long song, but it's really meant to just like, bam, go ahead, play it. 7 minutes of just grooving out to James Brown. That's what it is. It's a Man's World. It's like one of his slower songs. Doesn't have a whole lot of those. He's really known for his funk, his upbeat jams, or whatever you want to call them, bops, bangers, if you will. Song release dates, I gotta say, I got that from allmusic.com, just to give you a reference of, the artist evolving throughout time. And then things to consider when looking and exploring into older music. So keep digging. What I mean by that is artists all have different sounds that they go to within their discography. So if you just find one song that you don't necessarily like, it doesn't mean that the artist has song like all their songs sound like that, um, and have reasonable expectations. So one good example for reasonable expectations would be the Rolling Stones. As popular as the Rolling Stones are, as like famous as they are, they still have bad songs, you know. So you just gotta have reasonable expectations for these artists. You know, they're all human. They're all gonna make bad songs, but that doesn't mean that there's not like a decent handful of music that you can enjoy from every artist. All right, so I'll leave you with this. In a time period of love and war, the greatest like, medium for self-expression was music. Music in the 60s and 70s was packed full of soul, so much so that it had to be broken into subgenres. And if you dig deep into these subgenres and what the time period has to offer, the odds are you'll find yourself in a whole new world of music to enjoy.